told you he was everywhere. Kaiketsu Zorro? No, not that Zorro. It's a co-production between Italy's Mondo TV and Japan's Toho Animation. Yes, that Toho. It's yet another reimagining of the legend of Zorro. I'm not sure how popular it was, but it was one of the longest running series involving the character with 50 episodes under its belt. They even give us a nice introduction to the story.
At the end of the 18th century, California was still part of the Spanish Empire. Under the peaceful blue skies of this beautiful country, the people lived in constant fear of the army. But they were powerless to fight the cruelty and injustice of the Spanish soldiers. It seemed to the people that the reign of terror would never end. They had almost given up all hope. The old days of peace and happiness seemed a long-forgotten dream.
Yeah, about that. I am so sorry to interrupt you, random narrator, but the old days in New Spain looked a little bit more like this. Anyway, Don Alejandro has called his son Diego to return from Spain to fight the evil Spanish army. As usual, he pretends to be a boring, conflictless gentleman so he can don the mask and become the protector of the oppressed known as Zorro. Just like before, this incarnation of Zorro takes some liberties from the original story. But oh boy, this one is very different. And let's start by addressing the most glaringly obvious difference. Why is Zorro dressed like a flamenco dancer? I mean, it's hard to take him seriously like that because he's freaking blonde! Look at how white this guy is! He even has blue eyes! Yep, there's that little detail. Here you have the whitest Zorro you'll ever see. And he's on a cartoon. Sure, you could say that works because he's of European descent, but it also looks odd. I don't know what is it about. Maybe it's that distracting outfit he's wearing since Tuxedo Mask. He reminds me of Tuxedo Mask. Okay, so after doing some extensive research, I figured out what the reason for this was. Or I asked people who are better informed than me. Point is, what I learned is probably going to blow your mind sky high. Are you ready? He is blonde because he stands out. No, really, that's all there is to it. In a town full of average-looking characters, how do you lazily make your main character stand out for the crowd? Simple! Give them bright colored hair and you can worry about that pesky personality later. You could argue that it may have something to do with Japanese's fascination with Western culture, but we must remember this is also an Italian production. So maybe making Diego look like this was their idea. The only other blonde characters in this are Diego's love interest and this guy, who is also the bad guy's second in command. Aha! See? It all works out perfectly. As you can see, I'm not a big fan of the character design here. It's not like I want them to look Hispanic, but they just look weird to me. Or maybe I'm suffering from cultural clash. So I'll try not to focus on this anymore. Anyway, let's move on to the actual characters and not just how they look like. Diego remains unchanged except for a few things. You know how the classic Clark Kent is super clumsy and non-confrontational? Multiply that times 10 and that's anime Diego.
私はディエゴ・ベガと申しまして。
ドン・アレハンドロ・ベガの息子か？
少佐殿、その通りで。
スペインに留学していると聞いた。
はい、ですが調子に乗って遊びすぎまして学校落第。仕方なく国元に帰ってきたというわけなのです。少佐殿、これから私はどうしたらよいのでしょうか？
Isn't he adorable? I have to admit, even I wouldn't believe he's secretly Zorro. Except for the whole being blonde thing. Yeah. Of course, his personality changes completely into the generic stoic hero whenever he changes into Zorro.
軍の権力を笠に来て、自らの欲望のために人々を苦しめるレイモン司令官。心改めればこのゾロが許さん。
Speaking of which, in this show, Diego becomes Zorro by literally materializing his costume from thin air. This reminds me of something else. No, not that. I know, maybe if I change the music. That's right, the mighty Zorro is a magical girl. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, allow me to confirm my theory. See if you can spot what is wrong with the following scene.
撃て何誰だ何をしておる撃て
If your answer was the fat surgeon, then you are right. But that's not what I'm talking about. Let's go in order, shall we? First of all, Zorro stops Raymond's men by who knows what means. It doesn't even look like he touches them. Does he control the wind? Because that would explain his transformation sequence. Then, after that bit of impossibility, his horse jumps from a fucking cliff and they both land safe and sound. At this point, it should be obvious he has magical powers, but the nail in the coffin is this. In what scenario does swinging your sword works like that? Those people should be dead. As you may have guessed, you are going to need some suspension of disbelief when watching this anime. Or you could do what I'm doing and pretend you are watching a magical girl show set in California. This is Lolita, Diego's girlfriend and future wife, but only because her parents are after De La Vega's fortune. You know, the usual stuff. On a more serious note, she is a step up from most romantic interest in other Zorro adaptations. She's a kick-ass woman and more than capable. In fact, sometimes it's her who gets the job done. Lolita is the closest I can think of to an animated version of Elena. So in my book, she is the best addition to the cast. And then you have Bernardo. Oh god, another child. Why? Just why? What is so wrong about having a mute sidekick? Why do most of these animations change him into something completely different? Ironically, the Warner Brothers cartoon is the only one that has gotten this right. I get that they wanted a younger character for the kids to relate to, but why did they need to replace Bernardo with him? This version of Bernardo is a typical children's stereotype. Hot-headed and wants to be like the hero. He even disguises himself as a tiny version of Zorro. As usual, he gets kidnapped or puts himself in dangerous situations only for Diego to rescue him. Think Joaquin, only more useless. And then you have the bad guys. Here, Commander Raymond is more of a rogue than a generic soldier. Instead of working alongside the government, he constantly threatens the governor to help him with his evil plans. Because the military is always evil, you see.
ところで国を混乱させようとした謀反人を捕らえた偉大なるスペイン国家軍に逆らう者は容赦しない総督の名において処刑する
And then there's Sergeant Gonzalez. Fun fact, he's the only character who has remained unchanged through every single Zorro cartoon so far. I wonder why.
Surrender, Zorro! We have you trapped! You...
but they also develop him through the series. In fact, later in the show, when Zorro is thought to be dead, the good sergeant is the one who brings Commander Raymond to justice. So, technically, the fat Sergeant Gonzalez is the true hero of the story. And he didn't need Zorro's magical powers to do it. You go, you big, clumsy man! I may not like the look of the show, but honestly this is one of the best stories of Zorro. It's always easier to tell the adventures of Zorro in different episodes, because it helps to see the characters grow with each of them. And with so many episodes, it's no wonder why I consider Kaiketsu Zorro to be the most solid animated adaptation of the characters so far. The action is great, although a little too fantastic for a Zorro story, but you gotta respect a show that features 3 people dressed as Zorro shooting a machine gun. So imagine my surprise when I learned that not many people have heard about it. But why?
Diego Viega's coming home from Spain today. I'm meeting him at the port and I mustn't be late. Yeah!
You can hide behind these crates. You're gonna be sorry for this, even if you are a rich farmer's daughter.
Great, they made it! I knew they'd managed to get away!
Oh! I spent a few days trying to find information about the people behind the English dub, and all I could find was a couple names and nothing else. Maybe that's because they were very ashamed of this dub.
Let's go! You did it, Burrito!
We did it! We did it!
We did it! Hooray! We did it! Fantastic! We did it!
Dios mío, even the lamest abridged series have better voices than this. Every single person in these sound like they are either bored to death or in a hurry to finish recording. Let's not even talk about their Spanish. Besides poor distribution, it's no surprise not a lot of people would enjoy watching an anime with such a terrible dub. I mean, I want to know what went wrong here. Maybe they weren't paid enough, or they didn't care about the project at all. If you listen to the Spanish dubs, they at least sound decent. And I'm told by my title card artist that the Arabic dub is just as good. So what gives? Well, I honestly don't know. So if you have any information on this, please let me know. There's no way to buy the complete series right now, so your best bet if you want to see them is to search through YouTube or specialized anime forums. This should come as no surprise, but of course I definitely recommend watching the Japanese dub over the English dub. However, if you want to see a shorter version of the story, there's a movie floating around online which includes only the most relevant episodes. It's a fun watch if you don't care about the terrible dub.
I don't want to see a world that needs Zorro anymore. But I do want to see Zorro again. Oh, what a shame.
Well, Diego is really Zorro anyway, so he doesn't have to pretend anymore, okay?
Ah, yes, but was he really pretending?
Why don't we all go for a ride?
Okay! Woo!
Next time, we're going far into the future to meet a younger Diego in Zorro. Generation Z? Oh man. This is gonna suck, isn't it?
You can hide behind these crates.